The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100 have been on an absolute tear. When we look at what's happening over the past 2.5 months, you've basically been retracing with a bull flag back to the 200 SMA, bouncing off these levels. This is the Nasdaq to get us started. You can see all of our key levels, everything that's playing out here, but ultimately what's happening right there is the most important. Now, when I get rid of this so you can see the little flag, we zoom in a little bit more, you're going to get a little bit more clarity. This is the level we've been talking about for like essentially 4 to 8 weeks, right? Going back into essentially 15.4, right? You can see here from our chart prime level coming in, you can see that we're coming right into that resistance. Sellers are very active and it's a lot of volume. It's not going to be easy to get through this, right? But we like the reaction that we've got. Now, a few things that we need to identify, right? The opportunity is not right here. The past few days, I've been very bullish, past week or so, very, very strong in the market since the FOMC meeting. Right now is the time for caution and patience. I'll explain exactly why, because something big is coming, and I'm telling you right now, when it comes to the buy side, you were either early, we've traded most of this, but right now, you could be very late, and it could absolutely destroy your portfolio. Now, going into SPY, the level I've been saying is basically 438, okay? Now, on our chart prime level as well, you can kind of see here from the 4 hour, you can see that sellers are active here as well. And that's what we were kind of targeting, this whole little bit of a block, right? But really the top of the line is 438. We came almost into that around 437.7, and that's where we're rejecting at right now. So again, very similar structure when we zoom out, kind of a bull flag. You got below the 200 SMA, a little bit less there, and you're kind of just, tinkering back and forth. Okay, that's where we're at right now. Now, a few things before we go too far. Right? The VIX getting hammered, coming down faster than how fast we came back in May, just give you food for thought, right? We go into oil, also came right down into our target of the 200 SMA, but to my surprise, dropping right through it. Very bad as well. The yields are the one thing, though, that I think we need to be paying attention to, and the dollar. Okay, the dollar has had a really nice bounce on the day and a half, but still showing weakness coming back into that key level we mentioned yesterday, rejecting off of it. 2-year yield coming down 5, 10, 30. They're all pulling back pretty aggressively, as you can tell in comparison to the dollar. So those are things you're watching, and those pulling back is very good for a risk on mentality, expecting more upside. Okay. So although I'm saying be cautious here, there's possibilities and there's things we need to be looking for that upside potential. Okay, before we do that, I ask you to do two things. Consider liking and subscribing. It helps out tons. I appreciate all love and support. Just check it out. Every single day, Monday through Friday, we are here live on the channel. We're posting content for you. You're on Twitter, YouTube, whatever it may be. So consider liking and subscribing. There's no Discord spots or nothing like that right now. All that's sold out until Black Friday. Just understand that. Also, too, if you're looking at our chart prime levels that are coming in here, as you can see, and if you need a little bit more assistance with how you're charting these levels and finding our key levels, the chart prime link is down below as well, so make sure you check them out. If you use the link down below, you get 30% off your first month. Could be pretty helpful to you. Okay, now this is where we've talked about indexes, and so I've kind of done all we need to discuss there, right? There's no need for us to go too heavy into Nasdaq or ES and where we're at. We're at resistance. Okay, we can all agree. We're at resistance now. Now, going into this, we talked about AVGO, talked about AMD, a lot of stocks, great opportunities, okay? But something right now is different than what we've had over the past few weeks. We go over to the economic calendar, and this is for this week. You have some Fed members speaking, but none of them are that important, and they've really given you no view on the market right now. Right? Waller spoke this morning, and he basically said, I'm not going to talk about monetary policy, the end, right? Yeah, Powell's supposed to speak. I doubt he says anything with the meeting that we just had, but there's no real data coming out. The only data that will come out is on Friday, and that's Michigan expectations, and it has had pretty good movement, and Powell has stated his importance on that data. But I'm not going to run and say that this is end-all, be-all, or it's not PCE, CPI. There's no inflation data, right? These are just expectations. Understand that. So when I look at that, and we look at this overall trend and how we've moved, it's different here. Before we've had CPI, we had earnings, we have inflation, we've had real data to track. And here it's all just moving on price action. So what I want you to do here, going into tomorrow and the next day, the end of this week, right? What you're looking for, and I've said it so many times, I want to see that break above, hopefully get a retest, and then pushing back. That's the best sign. But honestly, if we just break above previous highs here of 15.465, almost as good enough as you're going to get. So right here, there's just it's a no trade opportunity zone here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do really quick before we jump back and forth is go over some equities. And I want to show you why yesterday we were so bullish into today. Remember yesterday we talked about the big seven, and this is just a tip for you when you're trading, when we're looking at the market and we're trying to figure out how to, attack and navigate the market. Okay. If indexes are showing signs of a pullback, but your big seven names, Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Netflix, Meta, Microsoft, Apple, whatever, right? The big one, Tesla, are all holding up. The only one that didn't hold up out of those was Tesla. But if everything else is holding up, and this is a 4-hour time frame, so I mean, let's go to the daily to give you a better view. So yes, 5 green days on Microsoft. Meta, great action, just pushing up. You've had some pullbacks, but you ended pretty solid. Nvidia, great, right? Amazon, great. Netflix, great. Apple, great. So what I want to show you here is, even though we go back to yesterday, and remember we had that consolidation here all day yesterday, right here in this little range, that's a bullish sign that the equities that have carried this market this whole year so far are still performing. So even though we're coming into a resistance here on Nasdaq, on SPY, and we're kind of getting a pullback back into local highs here, Nasdaq pulling back a little bit. And I'm going to tell you right now, all transparency, I've closed out majority of my short-term trades, whatever it may be, AVGO, AMD, etc., all of that, pretty much out of all of those, right? Amazon, all of it. Because I understand where we're at in the reaction that we've got here. But even though we're getting this type of pullback, it's interesting that a lot of these names are holding up. You see how they're all holding up locally at highs? Very strong behavior. So again, I'm not saying time to buy at highs. No, I'm just looking for clues and giving me a little bit of an edge going into the next day. Because right now, these are days you got to be liquid. When you end the day here at resistance, you got to be liquid. It's the name of the game. Protect your portfolio, protect your capital, right? Because if you can protect that capital, you still allow yourself to grow that capital. We're not looking for, full sin, 100% gainers every day. It's not what we do here. It's about educating day traders and getting you through the next day and showing you the roadmap to success and finding these big plays, right? So when I look at this, I like what I'm seeing, but I need to see more. I want to see DXY, number one. I want to see this get hammered down. I want to see yields, more weakness. Oil's already getting destroyed. XLE, energy names, absolutely decimated. Absolutely. Almost down 2.5% on the day. Right? I expect a dead cat pretty soon on oil, but again, very weak. All signs to risk on. All signs to better inflation numbers. Okay? Those are things you have to be looking at right now. Okay? Now, I like the upside opportunity, but I'm going to go over plays that I believe are the best opportunity if we get this breakout above 15.4. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if the 15.4 break comes, you're pumped, you're excited. So number one, Apple, I'm just going to tell you right now, some things that you need to be watching. King Leonidas level 174. Target 2 was right here. It's all posted on Twitter. If you're not following on Twitter, I don't know what to tell you. As you can see here in media, I've literally gone over everything. SPY, 24 hours later on AVGO from 877 into 900 like we talked about. Mentioned here on the channel. We mentioned AMD here on the channel. Datadog went crazy. I don't know what else to cover here, right? They're all going crazy. Apple target 1, target 2 was up there. We mentioned. I can go on and on. So I really recommend following on Twitter. Okay, can only say that so much. My favorite names, though. Apple, you're doing really good. And I'm going to go over Apple real quick. But if Apple is continuing to move like this, you have to anticipate SPY continues as well. Okay? It's the biggest name in the S&P. If Apple can break over 182 and hold, 182.5, give or take, big sign that the SPY is going to follow. Okay? So favorite names here. Now, overnight, if you don't know, we had earnings from Datadog. Now, Datadog did something we haven't seen in a while. 28% on the day from earnings. Massive beat. Now, something that I want you guys to be thinking about, I'm going over opportunity here, right? And if you've been here on the channel for the past year, when I talk about opportunity, I think good things tend to happen. You maybe see some of the biggest plays that we've had here on the channel based on these opportunity plays. So Datadog, cloud, okay? Now, everyone's been going crazy with AI, right? We've all heard the AI story. That's been the craze of the year. AI. It's like NVIDIA's a bubble, AVGO's a bubble, AMD's a bubble. They're all bubbles, okay? So everyone says. Yet those bubbles just aren't popping and their revenue numbers support the thesis. But nevertheless, the ugly stepchild to AI, there's really two. Okay, but one of them is a better looking stepchild. It's not your firstborn, but it's still really good at all sports and everyone loves it. And that's data centers and what's happening with like Amazon and Microsoft and what they're doing with cloud computing. They're dominating, they're doing very good, they're killing it. But the ugly stepchild that doesn't get the attention, right? It's these cloud names. It's CRM, Salesforce, CrowdStrike, Datadog. Okay, these are the unsung heroes there. And I think Salesforce is doing a really good job with their marketing right now. You've probably seen them, right? The Matthew McConaughey. It's like if AI is the Wild West and who's the sheriff? And it's Matthew McConaughey. I'm like, okay, you couldn't have picked honestly, great casting. Okay. And these are the names. And I'm going to go through really quick. And I've said these names a lot, but I think right now you're getting to a very big area. So CRM, for instance, on the year, from December, Christmas, basically, past Christmas, from 126 to highs of 240. Basically 100%. You're back at 211 trying to break out. Okay. Bounce on the 200 daily SMA, pushing up. In my opinion, above 215, 216. I think this thing runs into 230, possibly 250. But I mean, honestly, the measured move would push you up even higher. I think these names can start to run like crazy. And you've heard me mention these before. CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike, again, CrowdStrike isn't even pulling back with the rest of the market. Consistently, it might actually be one of the best performers in the entire market. Consistently, higher lows. And guess what? Higher highs. Consistently. You made a new 52-week high again. From lows of 92 to highs of today, 195. Now, the level that I'm looking at on CrowdStrike, and I mentioned it today, which is that white line right there, is 195. I want to see if we can start to mount this. I don't really think, the highs of 205, 204 are going to be big, but I believe if you mount to 195, you're pushing hard. And CrowdStrike has still, give or take 50% of room to hitting back to all-time highs. But again, you're seeing these names. And Datadog, granted, compared to some of the others, it's really held down where it was at with $81. And y'all have heard me mention these cloud names over and over and over. But I'm telling you, if this setup with the Nasdaq breaks out, the bull flag, if you break out to the upside and you get above 15.4, cloud names are going to be a must watch into the end of the year. I don't want to go crazy and say 30, 40% gain. I don't want to say that. But I want to highlight the value potential. Understand that. And giving you a food for thought. Options AI. Okay, if you don't know, if you're new to the channel, been to the channel, kind of coming back, this is the only broker we're using now on the channel, right? Because it gives us the best view of looking at options and breaking it down simply for us. I'm going to go through a quick rundown of these names. CrowdStrike, trade idea. Just really quickly. We're just going to go bullish. We're going to go, and if I'm looking at cloud names and I'm looking to go for March of this coming year. And I know some of you are like, oh my God, Tyler, it's so far dated. Oh my, they're going to be so expensive. Bear with me, right? So for instance, CrowdStrike, one of the best performers on the market, 190 calls they're in the money already for 90 days. And he's probably about 120. And the target, in my opinion, is at bare minimum 205, but I think you start running and breaking out if you get over this level. These are only 2,300 a pop. Now, again, you're like, those are expensive, Tyler. Those are very expensive. If you want, you can edit these down. You can go something a little bit less risky. You can go closer towards the target of 205, so closer to 210 if you really want to. Continue back. Half the price, 1,400. I know what you're thinking. These are still expensive, yada, yada, yada. Remember those AMD contracts I mentioned yesterday? Remember those? They're already moving great. You moved up $3, $4 on the day. So again, understand what we're talking about here and the potential there. Now I know you're saying, oh, well, that's $1,000 and that's my whole portfolio. This, that. If you have $1,000 in your portfolio, maybe you just slow down with trading, right? Probably. Okay. But also too, understand a safer position enables you to actually hold that position and actually trust the process of that trade. That's why so many people are trading 0 DTEs or these 1 day out contracts or weeklies and losing all their money. They don't know what's happening. And then they rage and say day trading is a scam. Well, yeah, if you're gambling, then it might be a scam. Next up, CRM. Okay. Again, another beautiful one. I think CRM, best potential. CrowdStrike, probably the least risky. CRM's my favorite though here. Okay. Calls. Okay. What are we looking at here? Giving you a visual. The market is closed, so Options AI has to re-render all the data. But again, closer to something like 220. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I really genuinely believe you can run to 250 on CRM. I'm going to tell you that right now, but I'm not going to go that far out because I like having actual risk and understanding what's happening here. Around 1400 again on these contracts. I'm really trying to demonstrate and showcase what I'm looking at here. Okay, so understand, and these are already at you're already at 211 there. Only $9 out of the money. It's like trading leveraged stock at that point, right? You need to be understanding good setups versus high risk. I see people mentioning these mid caps, okay? And CRM CrowdStrike might be mid caps, but they're in a sector that is incredibly, incredibly bullish. I don't believe AI is a bubble. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't, right? Now, companies like C3 AI and Super Microcomputer, whatever the SMCI, those might be bubble type stocks. But NVIDIA, LRCX, AVGO, the manufacturers and people selling the shovels, right? You've heard the theory. When there's a gold rush, the number one way to make money, sell shovels, sell the pickaxe. That's what NVIDIA, LRCX, AMD, AVGO are. They're the pickaxe, they're the shovel. They're not that's my opinion though. And we've been saying this for the past 6 months and it's worked out. I think the same thing with what's happening with CrowdStrike, CRM, and these others, right? It may not be the pickaxe or the shovel, but it's still very valuable to those specific areas. Someone has to oversee. Someone has to integrate, and that's where these step in. So again, it's not a sales pitch on AI, but I think it's one of the most valuable opportunities. I'm going to revisit this video. It'll all be on Twitter. I'll have charts out there, but that's what I'm looking at right now. I think there's great setups. I've already said Microsoft. I think you're running to all-time highs. We've gone over all these. I'm not going to tell you about stocks that are already at all-time highs. I don't know what to tell you about those anymore. We've already talked about AVGO at 870. I talked about AMD at 111. I don't know what else to talk about there. I'm trying to find you guys the best bang for your buck, the best opportunity, and hopefully, find some good setups for you guys. That's the point of this channel. That's what I'm looking at. If you have questions, comment down below. Have a good one, traders.